On my left side, you see Adam Szajcz from Pharmacy Lux 99, which is a pharmacy which is concentrating very much on cannabis medicine, cannabis patients, a good source of information for us every time it's about pharmacy issues. Then we've got Henn from CannaMedical, claiming to be the biggest importer in Germany for medical flowers. He can tell you more about that later. And we have Tjalling Ekerlens from Bedrocan, which was, for me, just a few years ago, Mr. Cannabis Europe or something like that. That few time ago, we had only Bedrocan in our pharmacies, nothing else. So this is nice for me to have him here. Let me just give a very little short introduction what we are talking about here when it's about imports. Because that is not the same as talking about the German market. You hear more about that later. When you have the German market, you have several different products, and a big proportion of this market is not flowers. It's dronabinol, pure THC product, maybe about 1/3 of the market. There are no real clear numbers and statistics there, and that is kind of monopoly, a German company doing that. And then we have a big proportion of Sativex, also kind of monopoly from Great Britain, you know that. And here we are talking about the rest of the market, mainly flowers. My bet is about 40%, maybe a little bit more, and a growing number, but small but growing, extracts. That's what we are talking about here. This is quite a free market with many producers, many importers, and well, so that's fun. That's the playground for everybody here, more or less. And let's start with that on the front, on the counter of the pharmacies, giving Adam the question: what kind of products do you have there in the pharmacies? And what about the proportion you sell there in your pharmacy?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So, I'm just following up on your first thought about dronabinol and the synthetic THC. So you have to differentiate those from the flows. And the number you just mentioned, 60% of the market. Yes, it's a narcotic drug that has been prescribed since the 90s, and those numbers are accurate since it's a simple drug. And it's easy to understand for physicians, and this is why they prefer to prescribe that. Also, the public insurance cover their costs, if only cover the cost of having a medical cannabis therapy if there was also a therapy with dronabinol that has been failed. So this is why those numbers are that high. In our pharmacy, we are specialized in medical cannabis, and in the flows, we sell about 5 to 7 strains from the Netherlands, and around 25 strains are being imported from Canada. So we can confirm that number. We provided extracts way less than 60% to our patients in the last year, but it's definitely interesting what the extracts are holding us.
And what is also mentioned already in the prescription of this panel is the problem of bottlenecks. What about that? What is available, what is not available in your pharmacy and everywhere else in Germany?
Yeah, so the bottlenecks are huge, actually. So the pharmacy, it's quite challenging, actually, to provide all sort of medical cannabis that are available in Germany for the patient, because there is no source. There's no source where we could get the information which strains are available right now. So as a pharmacy, you have to go and ask what you can deliver. And the bottlenecks also mean that if you are not well prepared, if you don't have a huge amount of cannabis on stock, that you're most probably not able to provide the medication to the patients. So you mostly have to say no to your patients, and the patients in need to find a pharmacy, because as you know, the prescription for narcotic drugs is only available, you have only 7 days just to redeem that prescription. So the patients have definitely a huge problem with that. So what we are trying to solve is to provide the information, what exact strains are available right now on the German market, in order for the patients and for the doctor to know where to go with that prescription and what to prescribe. Other than that, just one more thought to it. From the pharmacy perspective, it's very important to provide the patient the medicament just to follow up on the medication. So if you can provide the same medication once it has been used up, then you're not following on the exact path. And this is quite huge. So once a strain is prescribed and in 2 weeks it's out of stock, then either the doctor or the patients, but mostly the doctor, has to look for another sort of strain that sometimes has a different effect. Mostly, not sometimes.
All right, so this is slowing down the development. We are talking about 3 tons of flowers last year. What my bet is 50 to 60,000 patients used last year. Could have been much more if we had good supply. So what the hell is going on? We Germans are not able to grow our own, obviously. At least we need lots of time to get it on the road. And we are begging the world, give us your buds, and we don't get it. Especially we see those bottlenecks and problems from Canada. So my next question to David, what's going on? You had also problems importing from Canada, right? What is the problem? Why does it not come? And is this problem going to solve in the next future?
Yes. Hello. Thanks, Georg, for the introduction. Just one more thing to add. I said we're the biggest independent importer in Germany. Maybe this is a little detail, but significant. So what is happening in Canada, we mainly see 2 things. A is there's a lot of facilities, there's really, really big facilities that are going to produce lots of quantities that is earmarked and reserved for Germany, for the simple fact that they can generate a higher yield when they sell it to Europe, other than in Canada. But let's not forget that Canada has just opened up in October the recreational market. So, and the second impact is, let's not forget, most of these companies that are supplying medical cannabis are public companies. So what they did is they entered in lots of bankable agreements with the provinces to supply those provinces, and lots of them were over-promising. At the time they were executing these contracts, and they were fully aware of this, but they were literally pokering to have new facilities up and running online, being fully certified, obtaining a cultivation and sales license just on time. That simply did not happen. And we were one of the importers that actually got hit by this with a full effect, because last year when I was here, I was telling lots about a new supplier that we have helped obtaining the EU GMP status. So we did this, we kept our word. But what happened was, the next thing is, we got into some political conflict with the supplier. So we were no longer able to import from this producer. Given the German narcotic regulations and pharmaceutical regulation, getting a new supplier EU GMP ready takes us, well, roughly 150 to 180 days. So there's lots of things coming, and we're actually just waiting for an export permit from Health Canada to have new CannaMedical varieties on the market. It's, let's say, 3 to 4 weeks. They are fully packaged. They are laying in stock in Canada. But at the end of the day, there is still lots of problems going on in Canada with the ability to close this gap for a constant supply. But I'm very hopefully for actually Q3, Q4, that those gap will get much better, due to the fact that a lot of these giga facilities are coming online. I've been in Canada last week, so Monday to Wednesday, and I've seen a few facilities, and I'm truly confident and hopeful that those giga facilities that can actually produce 50 to 60,000 kilograms a year will have a very positive impact. And then there is a second side. This is also affecting Tjalling's company, is we would love to import more from the Netherlands, but the way the Netherlands is selling due to the OMC is really making us a tough life. For the simple fact that we have a fixed amount that is going to Germany on a monthly basis. This amount is divided by the amount of growing importers equally, mostly equally. And technically, CannaMedical itself has about 200 to 300 kilos on pre-orders a month that we cannot serve at the moment.
All right, that leads to the question, which other countries could provide our needs here, and also leads to Tjalling, and that maybe in the first thought, unusual idea of the Netherlands government giving a limit to the exports. There's a funny story going on. Maybe you can tell us if that is right. The limit you could provide to Germany was much lower until, I think, summer 2018. And then our health ministry minister Jens Spahn was phone calling panically the Netherlands government to give us more, lift the limit. Is that story right? And how is the story going on?
Thank you, Georg. I don't know if the story is right. That in the first place, I wasn't there. So I know that there have been requests on the political level. That's where the whole thing is basically playing. That's the playing field in Europe. It's on the political and regulatory level most of the time. It's dealing with regulatory organizations, dealing with governments, dealing with controlled substances does mean, in Europe especially, that's a fully locked-in market. We have been operating in this market since 2003. The first 10 years, not so much happened. From 2008, we started exporting very little amounts to Germany, Italy, a few other European countries, and that's where it all started. And where the OMC, the Dutch regulatory office that is responsible for keeping the monopoly on the trade in cannabis, I have to emphasize that, because the trade in Europe will not be in the hands of individual companies if we talk in cannabis flower. It will be in the hands of the regulatory organizations that are appointed by their government. So in Germany we have BfArM, in Holland we have the OMC doing that. And at some point, I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago, the Dutch government was kind of swamped with requests from all over the world, including Israel. They were asking metric tons of product. And basically, we were the only company at that time. And in that time, we were producing only maybe 200 kilos a year. So those requests could not be fulfilled. But the Dutch government had in the back of their mind, obviously, they don't want to disadvantage anybody who was coming to ask for product. So they start dividing product in portions. Say you can get a little bit of this and you can get a little bit of that. And it was kind of depending on our ability to expand, and also to the change we saw in the world over the last 4 or 5 years, that actually also changed this whole situation. So we were able at some point, and it started back in 2013, I think we were able to expand. We expanded up until now 3 times. We came from a level of 200 kilos annually where we were in 2012. We are now at 5,000 kilos annual, and we will grow quickly now this year doubling almost those numbers, go to 9 metric tons a year, and we have plans beyond that. But again, we are trying to keep up, but demand, and that's another thing, the demand is not just coming up right now. The demand has there been for decades already, basically. However, and as I said in the beginning, regulatory and political hurdles and thresholds kept patients away from a legal system. So we had this huge illicit system, and we still see it in the Netherlands with the coffee shops, where the product being sold through the pharmacy is insignificant to what is being sold in coffee shops, but that's illegal product. But we also do see a lot of patients appear in that coffee shop still. That's a situation you don't have in Germany. So now the market is opening up in Germany. You see patients flooding into the system. Of course, the reimbursement thing is there. That's another important thing and an important feature that the German situation now supplies to patients, and that's very good. We had reimbursement in the Netherlands. It has been taken away again due to lack of scientific evidence. It's always the same thing, although we know that there is a lot of scientific evidence, but still, that's another discussion that we also need to have on a regulatory level. But that is basically how this situation evolved and where we are right now, to make a long story short.
All right, maybe back to that issue. You are able to produce more quite soon.
Yep.
Will the Dutch government and the OMC lift up the limit also? Will more Bedrocan hit the German pharmacies next year?
Okay, it's a number of questions in one question. So the question with regard to the OMC and the politicians lifting that ban on sales, that is a question for them to respond to. So I'm not a government, I'm just a company delivering to them. But I can tell that the situation is changing. The mindset is changing also in the Netherlands, and the fear that initially was there 10 years ago, like, oh, Holland will be, it will be all over the papers that Holland is exporting truckloads of cannabis into Germany. That was a political thing a little bit at that time. And we see that now fading because cannabis is being taken seriously also in Holland. But we have to get over the regulatory issues. We also see in Germany, if you look at the German tender, how much product is being asked? 4,000 kilos? How much did you sell in the last whatever, that is already too little. So the import situation is there to stay for a while, I'm pretty sure. And it will be difficult, again, as David already pointed to, the Canadian issues are real issues too. They are also not able to just export freely and do whatever they like in that regard.
Well, that's perfect for my next question. What other countries could provide? There are lots of countries coming up right now. The regulation is that country must have a cannabis agency. It must meet the European GMP production. And in a case like Uruguay, it must have a divided system of providing in their country to the medical and the recreational market. That's quite odd detail. We are allowed to import from Canada with recreational market, but not from Uruguay because they sell recreational in the pharmacies. But other countries will meet those regulations quite soon. Israel, I am quite sure, is coming up on the market this year. Then we have attempts from Jamaica, maybe Australia, and a lot of European countries like Denmark, Poland, Greece, Macedonia. They are all opening up facilities now. So in 2 years we might have 10 countries providing and 20 companies or 30 or whatever. David, what do you think? Do you think we have 5 countries providing in a year? And have you got plans? Are you talking to producers in those countries? What is your bet how it's going on?
Yes. Thanks for asking. So there's a few things that we have done, and some of them are public. My hottest guess right now is Australia, for the simple reason that they have a very similar pharmaceutical system as we're used to have in Germany and also in Europe. So on top of it, they follow the same strict rules. We have an MRA in place that allows us to EU release tests in Australia. This is very comfortable details that are coming in here. They have great sun. They have a stable political environment. So I truly believe Australia will have a very good role in supplying Germany in the next time. I don't see Macedonia being that hot for the simple reason that let's not forget, they have not even opened up their exports. So we're simply talking about something hypothetical that could happen. I know it's very overhyped right now, but let's stick to details. I know that lots of things are going on in Denmark and also in Southern Europe. Denmark, I'll be honest, I don't really have an opinion right now. For the simple reason, I know that lots of these big companies went to, that are also participating in the German market. Some of the big names are actually setting up a facility, mostly retrofit facilities. But up to date, there is no facility in Denmark, at least I know of, that is fully up and running. I would love to see that we have the ability to actually grow in Germany also. I agree with you. We made multiple requests with the German bee farm, even to increase volumes, because 10 tons that is currently on the tender will not be sufficient. CannaMedical alone is holding supply agreements for over 25,000 kilos by now for the next 36 months. Just to give you an idea, we're only one importer on the German market, and we're very, very, very confident that we can sell this very, very easily, if that actually reaches the standard that is requested.
All right. Let's stick a little bit to this explosion of people, companies taking part in that market. Maybe again to David, we at the German Cannabis Association count 21 importing companies right now. More to come, probably, people seeking for making fast money. What do you think? How is this going to develop? Will it become more? Will it be more in a year? Will it be less in a year? Who will get through? Who will get problems? What do you think?
Well, I'm also aware of this because we see that lots of these companies are coming, especially in the last 6 to 9 months. And it seems to be a trend for people to tend to believe that it's very easy, quick money, but this is a complete wrong approach in my opinion. This industry is not a place for amateurs, and due to the fact how difficult German regulations are, or EU GMP regulations, I know that there will be a big earthquake in the industry coming in the next few months. From what we have heard, what is happening with the bee farm. They're also looking into it quite carefully, but just to give some examples, the way product is imported to Germany right now is far off the regulation. It's a very, I know Tjalling used to call this the Wild West, and he might be true to some extent. There is a very good chance that by the time the first player in this industry, and I will make sure CannaMedical is this player, will do it correctly and will actually completely live the regulations that we do today, that are in compliant with the AMG regulatory. There will be a very hard time for lots of these newcomers. First of all, they don't understand the regulatory. Second, they are completely underfinanced. And third, is lots of them are technically only built to be acquired by Canadians.
Yes, and on the other hand, you are the example for the people being a startup yourself just a few years ago and being very successful, and also others becoming millionaires in a short time. So it will stay a little bit Wild West, and some of them will get through, some won't. But all of this, more exporting countries, many more producers coming into the game, lots of importers will also lead to a huge variety in the pharmacies of several products. We already have a big variety, but then imagine we might have 100, 150, 200 different kinds and sorts of medical cannabis in the pharmacies. So my question to Adam, what do you think, what outcome will that have? Will that be good or not? What do you think?
Well, yeah, just to give a short answer, variety in the pharmacy is always welcome. So it's good to have many sort of medical cannabis strains in the pharmacy. But there is another way to look at this from the pharmacy's perspective, which is how those strains differentiate themselves from another. So how those strains are different from another, and who's telling whom those informations and those differences on the German market. So this should be the physician that is aware of all the differences from those strains. And today, on today's market, is not the case. So it's still, the number is getting better, that I must admit, but there's still the patients that know more than the physicians, and it shouldn't be the case. So also, if you have many strains on stock in the pharmacy, you have a very big logistic problems. You know, as narcotic drugs, it falls under different regulatory issues in the pharmacy than just simple OTCs, and this is quite a big problem for pharmacies that are not specialized in medical cannabis.
Yes, keep in mind that it's not like in the States or in Canada where you get your recipe and as a patient go to a dispensary and enjoy to choose out of 200 varieties.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
the doctor who has to do it and decide which one single kind I put on the recipe. And then it doesn't help if there are lots of brands not available. And it's confusing the doctors. Most of them are not able to really say which is the right choice. So we'll see where that leads to. I would like to go on one last issue before we open up for questions. Time is running. It's about extracts. The first two extract hit the market last year. I think at the moment it's still quite a small proportion, but there's also a second extract coming up now. And probably this is the future. My question to every one of you, asking for a short answer, starting with Tjalling, what are your plans? Are you sticking to flowers or planning extracts?
The flower is the basis of everything. We all know that. So that's what we now call API, the active pharmaceutical ingredient, or the raw material you're using to make extracts. We have been fully into producing flower first. We are getting into next steps where we want to actually extract indeed product, get into standardized extracts from the raw flower. But that will still be an API. So it will still be an active pharmaceutical ingredient. Europe, in the end, will require medicines, true medicines, registered medicines, clinically based on clinical research. You have a proper outcome if you want to use this variety or an extract from this typical variety. Currently, everything in the German pharmacy also, and correct me if I'm wrong, is happening under the rules and regulations of compounding pharmacy. So it's actually, the product has to be kind of made in the pharmacy itself, either by labeling, by weighing it, or by even extracting it. It's something we see in Holland happening also. The difficulty of making extracts from a regulatory perspective, again, is that you're dealing with a controlled substance and it has to turn into a medicine in Europe. That is what we see happening in Australia, by the way. So in Australia, where things are moving very slowly, but that's due to the fact that they have to develop real medicines and do their clinical work on it. It's a path we have chosen in Holland now as well. We have done our first clinical studies on flower. That is helpful because it allows flower also to be in the market and to stay there. But indeed, next step will be to come up with more defined products in the field of extracts, etc. But you need to be very aware that you cannot do that in the barn behind your house. You need a true pharmaceutical lab with under certain certificates, quality certificates, etc. need to be in place in order to be able to do that. And that's a long way.
All right, who wants to continue with that extract thing?
I'll pick up on that. Yeah. So right now the extracts are really liked from clinics. This is what I can confirm, but it's only our perspective. So clinics, there are clinics in Germany that only prescribe the extracts, and the reason behind this is because the dosage for the doctors is way simpler to follow up on. So if you provide the strains, also if it comes down to the compounds, the extract is way more efficient than just vaporizing or smoking the buds. I think, to answer the question short, yes, it has a great future. Also, most probably in Germany, the greatest, since the doctors and the physicians are the people that allow you to use that sort of medication. So yes, definitely.
All right, David, your thoughts and plans about extracts?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Technically it's the same answer I gave you last year. We will have extracts on this market very, very, very soon on one way or another. There is actually a very good opportunity that it will be around by Q4. We're very interested in bringing extracts to the market in accordance with NRF regulations. I'm just highlighting this because I know that at least half of the products that are in the market today are not in accordance. We want to give the prescriber, the doctor, the full transparency on which strain is used, non-changing strains for this extract. To my very best knowledge, there is no extract today on the market that is actually being that transparent to make it actually possible that you can follow up on therapy results by having 2 or 3 different strains, might be an indica and sativa in this industry. And we're very, very interested in having in participating also in research for all the extracts and developing a path to finished medicine will be definitely the next step then after extracts.
All right, thank you. And I think that's about on the second. Well, we have 10 minutes, 57 seconds left for your questions.
That's very precise, very German.
Tell us who is asked.
Tick, 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 tick. All right, let's hear it again for Georg and everybody on the panel. That was great. Excuse me.
Hey, how are you doing? I'm Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan Goldman from Sunlight Green in Portugal. My question is regarding what's your opinion about all the companies that we see starting to grow in Colombia and in Africa and the low production price that are going to come from there? And what's your opinion regarding that and regarding the regulation, the GMP, and how they're going to regulate to that, and what you're going to do about those companies that bringing cheaper product? Yeah.
Whom do you ask?
I think he's asking.
I can start.
Asking all of you.
I can start. Yeah, thank you very much. It's I totally understand your question. Products, whatever is produced wherever, if they have to come to Europe, if there is an export or import license for those products, and that's a matter of the regulator who will actually then judge whether the product complies with the regulations as we have them here or in the country where this product is being imported. What is likely to happen is that what you see more in agriculture, if you have typical products, and they want to make a typical extract from a product grown outdoor or in a greenhouse, or they want to purify certain compounds from it, I think that will be relatively easy. It needs to happen under the right regulations, obviously. And I think that in a certain way, there will be room for those products to come to market. But again, they will have to be compliant in full with the regulations as we have them here.
I would like to add something to this one. I know that there is a lot of competitive prices out on this industry. But let's not forget about one thing, actually. Before I'm curious about getting the cheapest market on prices on supply, I'd rather find a supplier that can actually deliver. And up to date in Germany, Tjalling is the biggest supplier on the German market that's constantly delivering. This industry is not about, to me, at least not to CannaMedical's values, is not about having the cheapest price on our suppliers. We like to treat everybody fairly in the supply chain. We would like to have everybody a fair chain in this industry. And this is what makes us probably so significant, so interesting as a partner also to global suppliers.
To the next.
I'm Markus Veit. I'm a pharmaceutical expert and consultant, and I have a question to David. From my perspective, there are increasing numbers of local authorities in Germany refusing import licenses because they consider cannabis flower as an approvable medicine because no compounding is done in the pharmacies. What is your perspective about that? There's a lot of things ongoing in the moment, and we also have the possibility in Germany to ask BfArM to have a categorization of that, and my expectation will be that they will ask them. And what will happen if they categorize cannabis flower as a medicine which needs approval? This can happen.
Yes. We hear this question quite often, and I don't think this will happen for one simple reason. Cannabis flowers today are still an API. You don't have clinical studies. We know that it works. You know that it works. We have achieved great results from patients' therapies. However, I have never heard that German local authorities, Bezirksregierung, are stopping to give out licenses. The proof that we have 21 importers in this industry today that are trying themselves out in supplying Bedrocan's material to the German market is underlying my argument here. On top of it, import licenses themselves, there might be a bit of confusion. So there is not this one import license. There's several different licenses that you have to hold in order to distribute and to sell medical cannabis in the German market. This is a wholesale license, narcotic clearing, clearing from the restriction. You need to have an import license, you need to have a release license, you need to have a license for irradiated material, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So there's not this one single license. I can tell you for sure that at least CannaMedical up to date never had an issue for obtaining an import permit. We were the third company that ever received a license to import to distribute medical cannabis. But again, I think the number of increase in wholesalers that try themselves out in this industry is underlining that we don't have an issue on the regulatory side. We have an issue on the supply side.
Yeah, I have a question for Adam and David. So we're an API producer, and we currently we expect at the end of this year to have a plant medical marijuana extract under GMP with the drug master file available. And I was wondering, if you can buy a plant as an API, would you be able to buy the extract as an API, and then in a pharmacy by compounding produce an oil out of it?
Before I answer your question, let me ask you a question. Who's giving you the EU GMP? Is it a governmental GMP or is it a private auditor?
It's a governmental GMP.
Cool. This is actually makes it by far easier because the private audit GMPs, I know that there are a lot of consultants that are offering services, are definitely good to have to prepare themselves, but are worthless when it comes to import regulatory. We are able to import raw extract. If you do have an import, if you do have an EU GMP certification date scheduled, I definitely would like to talk to you after this panel. To my opinion, and to my very best knowledge, the only way to bring product in from any country is in a way that you have raw extract today.
So and what would be the procedure then?
Sorry?
What would be the procedure then? We just ask our governments to...
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, we should have this discussion a bit more in deep after this panel. And I'm very, very sure that my QI team can actually help you in preparing yourself if we get together.
Thank you. There was somebody who was they were sitting.
The question went also to Adam. Do you want to add something?
Well, I can just give you a short answer. It comes down to the pharmacy. Since I'm not a pharmacist, I can just give you a short answer. That's yes, yeah. So we can definitely produce that extract for you.
Hello, this is Alfredo from Marijuana Business Daily. I have a question for David and one for Tjalling. David, you say you're the largest independent importer, and if I understood correctly, you're waiting for your first shipment from Canada in a couple of weeks. And you also said that cannabis coming from the Netherlands is being distributed equally or more or less equally and among all the importers. So can you explain how you are the leader then?
Yeah, sure.
And wait a second. And Tjalling, you are the sole producer in the Netherlands as of now. There was a tender last year that was canceled. I think it will restart again this year. That's what's being said. Can you give us more clarity regarding if you expect to continue being the sole producer in the Netherlands or you await more competition?
Let me just hurdle on this question why we are the biggest independent importer in this industry. We have been in this industry and supplying 2,400 pharmacies up to date in the past 18 to 20 months. That definitely gives us a competitive advantage over all the new startups that are coming in this industry. The chance that you are walking into a pharmacy and you would like them to order medical cannabis and ask them if they know CannaMedical is very, very significant. We are providing the best service to pharmacists. We're the most transparent player in this industry. We are currently having the biggest customer service team that is providing excellent service to these pharmacies every single day, and we have just been, thank you. And we have been just voted by internal requests from consultants agency that I've seen. We have been voted as the best and most reliable supplier in this independent supplier in this industry.
Dutch tender. Again, it was cancelled last year. It will probably come up very soon now this year. As far as we know, it will allow for multiple producers in the Netherlands, as it did from the beginning, actually. The fun thing is that this tender process in Holland is already relatively old, but in the past 15 years, nobody actually has seen this whole tender passing by, and now we see a bunch of interested entrepreneurs who want to get into it. Welcome, of course. I do like competition. And we expect that the outcome of the tender will get into result by January 1st, 2021. So we will be in the market for a while on our own still in the Netherlands. And yeah, that's as far as it goes for now. We are all basically waiting for this tender to come out and actually show what the Dutch government, the direction the Dutch government will take on this one.
All right. I think it's not enough time for another question. On my watch, it's 13 seconds left. So thank you all.
Let's hear it again for Georg Wurth.
Thank you.
And everyone on the panel. That was great and very efficient.